something happening here, but what it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there, telling me I got to beware. I think it's time we stop, children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.
Salutations, good morning, New Haven, good morning, Connecticut, good morning to the world, to our friends in Arizona, to our friends in Texas and California who follow me. This is your host, the Readman, Jesse Turner, and you're listening to the Truth to Power Hour on 103.5 WNHH New Haven, where community radio rules, the only place that you're not interrupted by commercials, and you get all the time you need to tell your story. All right. And today our guest, we'll allow her to introduce herself to you, and we're going to go into a natural sort of a coffee chat mold. And she's got an initiative that you're going to be amazed at. And this is a rising star. All year long, I've been interviewing diverse leadership in schools, at universities, and the community. And she falls right into that play. All right, so Dr. Velazquez, could you tell us who you are?
Sure. Oh, what an honor. Thank you, Jesse. Fantastic. I'm so happy to be with you. So my name is Dr. Evie Velazquez, and I am the Deputy Superintendent of the Consolidated School District of New Britain. I'm coming to you from my offices in New Britain, and we're so excited today because we are seeing a lot of great things happen in New Britain. The superintendent, Tony Gasper, and I have been here for 4 years. And what was lovely the minute we came in was it was clear that the community here in New Britain is very tight-knit, and they want the best for their children. And because of that, it's been easy to sort of do a lot of community partnerships, right? And today I'm going to talk to you about one new exciting thing that's happening with the faith-based community. Anything else?
No, that's perfect.
Okay, all right. Maybe I'll tell you more as we go.
Tell us more. Tell us about how the project emerged. That might be interesting.
Sure. Okay, so in New Britain in the fall, we were talking to the community specifically about a new report card. It was a standards-based report card, right? Something that many districts do. And we decided to go out to the community and have these evening community forums where parents could come in and ask us about the new report card and really learn about it. The whole reason for the new report card was to increase the conversations about how kids are doing, right? And so we had a lot of interest. People came out. They asked me questions directly, the superintendent, people in central office. We have principals and teachers, on and on. And one of the people who was there, or maybe several people from the faith community said, we would love to get more involved. We would love to support students in any which way you would like to use us. It was a blanket sort of why we have these people who are interested in tutoring, not necessarily during the day. Sometimes that's really formal and hard, but we want to figure out when our schedules could come together to support students. And so we had about the first formal meeting to talk more about the project. And really, I was interested in what did they want to do? It wasn't about just telling them what we wanted. It was really like, what could we do? And so the clergy, 13 pastors came together at that first meeting and said, our congregants want to mentor and tutor, but they're not quite sure how to do it. Could your part be orienting us? Could your part be bringing parents who want to do this together with us, coordinate that piece? We can take it from there, right? We'll recruit the folks who will be the volunteers if you could then advertise to your families so they could sign up. And I was like, all right. So the project was born. It was that easy, right? We are right now in the process of recruiting those volunteers and families. As of yesterday, I had 25 families, but that's going to increase. We have another 3 weeks of just recruiting. So I know that number will go up. And so I also need to recruit the volunteers. Though yesterday, We visited 6 churches. I got another half to go to today. We actually took the flyers and everything there. We wanted to meet the people who were doing the recruitment, and they were so excited about it. So we're all very happy that this is coming together. It'll come together formally in May, but we believe that this is a perfect time because start the relationship in May. It would be great for them to work all summer long, right? To build that relationship and going into, September, having established some really nice relationships. Yeah.
No,
So that's,
I agree with you. Often, we had a little conversation before we started, and particularly in New Britain and Hartford and Manchester are 3 places that when the state puts out its test scores, uh, members of diverse communities reach out to me because they know me. I'm an education activist and radio host, and they'll say, "Well, Jesse, what are we going to do? What can be done about this? Our students, black and brown students, at the bottom of this piece." And then we'll have a little conversation. I'll talk about, well, income is the number one indicator. We can't change that, and and so many things, and their often response is, "Let's do something right now. What can we do this minute? How can we help you?" And over the time, when I started hearing about you talking about this project, I started making some research connections. So I was a student of Dr. Louise Smalls, who did the work on funds of knowledge. And we used to make home visits. So if you were in his class, you had to make home visits to community schools, and you start to find out that someone's uncle is a welder. Guess what? You can't be a welder without knowing a lot about math. A carpenter, all these kinds of things. We would find out that there were these rich funds and things that who was tutoring at home. We would see that. Who's here to help? Tio helps, Tia helps, they come
right.
over. All of this stuff like that. And we would find out about this rich support group that came from the community. But when Dr. Moore looked at it, he said, but that group is not working with our students in the schools, the community. So, and he would always say a simple thing. It's that the strength of diverse communities is their diversity. The strength of schools in diverse community is that they don't have enough of that diversity in their schools, and that's true when we look at how many teachers are white Anglo teachers of students. It's overwhelming, and often people would talk to me, and I would say, "Well, what are we really going to increase the amount of diversity in teachers?" And we should. But it's a hard thing to do. But what about that community that Dr. Mall talked about in there? And this makes perfect connections to me. It also makes connections to the culturally relevant pedagogy. So if I can pair up a young Hispanic student, a third grade, I think you're doing third to eighth grade. You'll have to.
That's right. Initially, yes.
Okay. So if I could get a young third grader who's being mentored by a Hispanic community member, I mean, I make the perfect, what better mentor,
Right, exactly.
in that sense. First of
Right.
all, they're going to be bilingual most likely. So all at that point, I'm thinking and not only bilingual in Spanish, we've got people who are bilingual with classic Arabic. And African languages and all kinds of French and all that stuff. So all of this stuff makes perfect sense to me, this connection. If when we bring the community and we make better connections with our schools, we naturally align that culturally relevant pedagogy. We naturally build those funds of knowledge. So research supports this kind of thing. And I love the idea that that community members were asking what they could do.
Right.
They were, and I know the typical response would be, "Well, contact the governor." And they'd be like, "We did that. We've done that all the time."
Right,
The governor's
right.
not answering the phone. I got a phone. One guy told me, I left a message 7 days in a row. Randy Watson, who's the head of a black veterans group in Manchester, said, I called that man for 7 days. In 7 days, I left messages. Nobody's ever called me back. And so I've emailed and all that stuff. But this is different. This gives us a chance to do something. So you're working on this. This initiative has a lot of great, powerful research connections to it.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, I want to say, One of the most important things that happens to a child when they come to school, right, is that they need to believe in themselves and that this school, right, reflects, who they are and that the school believes in them, right? So children need a lot of different adults in their lives that they can see as models, right? And so, unfortunately, sometimes students who are Black or Latino or of another race, right, that isn't of the dominant race, sometimes the school doesn't do enough to make sure that that happens, that we believe in you and that you will rise to the stars, right? The students get that message, unfortunately. And so I think it's really behooves all the schools to work closely with community so that the students see that this is a school that values the community, that values all people who are in it, right? And so I believe through this project, we're doing something simple that's connected to something that's much bigger, right? I want children to see people of different races and different cultures being literate people, people who believe in education, people who can help them by serving as a model, right? I want children to know all of these people in my lives can contribute to my success, right? And so when we talk about mentoring and we talk about tutoring, sometimes the volunteers might think, oh no, I'm going to have to teach them how to read or math, or I get all these, right? However, the thing that I want most is for them to form a relationship with the children and have another adult in their lives that are saying, I believe in you. I am here and giving of my time because your education is important and because I can either assist you myself or I can help advocate for you to get the help that you need, right? That's not just
No, no,
plain teaching. That's a different kind of support that coming from someone in the community would be spectacular. I think it'll go a long way. I benefited from that. I grew up in the Bronx, right? And I remember having people in my lives that said they believed in me and showed me ways of being in the community that were successful, right? So I could
no,
see the success in my own life, right? That's what
right,
we want to do here. Yeah.
right. And I've thought about it in sometimes when I'm talking to community members about mentoring, they start maybe making it too sophisticated.
Yeah.
And when I've talked to them about this, so my friends in the New Britain NAACP, Willis Moore, he talks about it as reading buddies. He's going, I have to be a reading buddy. I'm already doing that to my granddaughter. Sent me a
Right.
video, and I'm like,
Exactly.
hilarious, great video of a grandfather reading. So he thought, I do this all the time. I love to read. And so that's another component of it. It's a
Sure.
natural piece. And it's the idea that kids who are struggling to read will also meet people who like to read,
Sure.
and they'll share that love of reading. It's hard to teach someone who's struggling with something, who hates it. And if you hate it too, it's not going to get through. They've got to get a little bit
Yes.
of that love. So I do love the idea of a mentoring that adds a little bit about we're buddies, we're reading buddies.
Right.
We're, like you said, advocates, things like that component. So I love that. And your piece is that when we were talking about it, I think it's too hard to make people to get them into individual schools. We said you're talking
Yeah.
about using the New Britain Library, which is a fantastic
Right.
place. And the New Britain community uses that library. You just got to go there and you can see people. I've been in there all times of the day, and it's always something's going on, something's happening, and there's lots of nice space. So
Yeah.
that's why you want to do this, right?
Yeah, let me tell you more specifics
Yeah.
about the logistics, right? To sign up to be a mentor, we're recommending to families. We want parents to take responsibility for the logistics of it. However, we're recommending and have already gone to library administration, who have told us that the library is available on Tuesdays and Thursdays for this, right? So when parents meet their mentors, that's a great place to go. It's a great place to do this, right? Meet up and have the sessions there. We also have another partner who is Lead Connecticut. They're in New Britain. They're actually in the old post office right downtown. They have also opened up their facility in the afternoon, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Parents could meet there as well. So when we launch, we will be present. People from schools will be present at the launch, and we're hoping that we get a lot of folks using both the library and then Lead Connecticut as a place where they can meet up with their mentors. Yeah.
You're going to get a lot of old volunteers like me who say, yes, come on, I miss the classroom. I miss doing this stuff. I want to work with parents. I want to work with kids. Yes,
Sure.
yes. All good stuff. It's when we do something for a child, we improve the world immediately. That's what we do. So I'm it's all sounding exciting, and you're already recruiting. I've been to a couple of the clergy meetings, and I'll be at the next one. And yes, I've seen that room, bishops in that room saying, well, what kind of students do you want? What do we do? Who are these students? And then, and the other piece for the public to know is they'll all be, it's strangely, this is 2026. So every one of those tutors have to have background checks. And so I think you were going to man the background check. Fingerprints are doing all this stuff. And I know the New Britain Police Department has been good with that too. Because my wife was a tutor at Holmes Elementary. She's a retired Harvard reading teacher. And she did some tutoring there. And when she got her fingerprints, they sent her to the New Britain Police Department, and they took the fingerprints and stuff. But it's also that our tutors will be vetted. Which it's not like anyone just shows up and we're going to let them sit next to your child. We're going to vet them. We're going to prepare them. We're going to support them. I think this is like strengths we may not have mentioned, but I want the public to know.
Sure. Let me say a little bit more about that. So right now we're recruiting both sides, right? We're recruiting the families and we're recruiting the mentors. The mentors will actually spend time with us. Thank you. Professor Turner has agreed to be one of the people who helps during that orientation. We're going to have about 3 hours of orientation, and we'll add, as we go, as we see the needs of the tutors, but initially they're going to get it. Orientation. What does it mean to support with the homework, for instance? We'll start there as a point. They'll understand a little bit about what 3 through 8 students are expected to do when they go home. So we'll give them some insights to that, and we'll give them some strategies that they could use right off the bat that I think will be helpful for how to work with a young child. Families are involved in this, right? So this is not a drop off and leave, right? We are encouraging families to also build this relationship with this adult that wants to help their child, right? It's very much that kind of a program where it's having families meet these adults and be part of this as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and our tutors will help prepare them so that they understand that they may not know what's being asked. Right. So particularly you had shared some math stuff at the last clergy meeting. And I was looking, I said, oh boy, I could be here for an hour on this. But even the fact to share that adults struggle with the math.
Right.
It's helpful to a child, because then they're thinking, if I'm a third grader or a sixth grader, I think I just don't get this stuff. Right. And all of a sudden they'll see another person who's an adult saying, yeah, I'm struggling with this too, but maybe we can work it out together. And of course, we will find ways to get people. We're going to find that we're going to have our math heroes, our reading heroes, and all of this. We're going to find them in that, especially when we're at the New Britain Library or the Lean place that they'll be tutoring. We'll find that there's going to be strengths there. And we might have to borrow someone else's mentor and say, could you come over here? Dr. Turner, we're struggling with this one, the vocabulary one, and we'll help them.
Right. I mean, one of the things that we really believe is important about mathematics, for instance, is that when adults and students sit together to problem solve, that the adult isn't the expert. They demonstrate, here's how I would approach it, right? It's a conversation. How would you do it? This is how I would do it. Let's work the problem and then compare, right? Let's talk about similarities or differences. If we're both stuck, one of the sessions could be, let's open your computer and write an email to your teacher. You're in seventh grade. You need to learn how to do this and ask questions. I got stuck on this. I'm not quite sure. And as an adult who can teach the child how to advocate for themselves and ask questions, that's probably a more valuable lesson than anything that they could teach them, right? Yeah. So we really want this to be a relationship, not just about teaching the content, but really it's more about teaching them how to be successful and how to navigate a relationship with the teacher so that they get what they need, right? They get to say, this is my seventh grade. I don't get to do it again. I need more. I need help. These are the things that are going well for me, and this isn't going well. So let's have another adult help you learn how to advocate for yourself. Yeah, we're doing that.
It works out.
Yeah, sure.
I've been working at CCSU with New Britain schools for 30 years, and I had wonderful experiences at those schools. Pulaski Middle School, we did a iMovie project that got national attention. MAC, they did a story on us. We took New Britain teachers to the ISTE conference, which is the one for technology.
Sure.
Really what they did was use the little iMovies. They would come to Central and we would train them. I had a bunch of iMacs, those cool ones that were all different colors. I could train you real quickly how to do it. It wasn't that hard. And we mainly at that point at Pulaski, we worked with special education kids. And all the skills were good. If you're going to make a little movie, you got to make sure you give it a title. You got to spell everything correctly. And we would they would interview people. One of them was a guy, George Gentile, Dr. Gentile. There's an Iwo Jima memorial in town over there. And he just loved those kids. He went there and talked to them all about the Hiroshima Memorial, and the kids acted like the parents here. The kids at Pulaski Middle School he said, "Come to the memorial. I'll tell you all about it." And they said, "Can we clean it?" And he's like, "Well, you could. Nobody's ever cleaned it before. I do." And I remember they went there and they cleaned it, and Dr. Gentile was crying. They did the same for the first black police chief of an all-white police force, Clifford Willis. From New Britain. He was a member of the Red Bull Express, which is Patton's. That's how the gasoline and people who were injured got to hospitals. It's a famous. Sidney Poitier also did a movie on it. But the Red Bull Express. But Willis met them, and they made a little iMovie for Willis. And I remember he was dying in the hospital, and I asked his wife, "Could I show him the movie?" When we showed him the movie, he was in tears, and it was just a simple thing. I mean, what can they were middle school kids from Pulaski, put together a movie. Said Clifford Willis, the Red Bull Express. They learned a little bit about that, but they also put in the Boogie Woogie Boy of Company B. They put you've got to put. And he just started crying in there and made us we had to show that movie like 5 times at the hospital and stuff. He just loved that. But that also, we looked at the benefits of this because, and it was really Dr. Gentile that told me, he said, often when I walk around New Britain and I see a bunch of these teenagers, I'm kind of intimidated by them and I cross the street. And so he said, I don't do that anymore. Now I say, "Hello, fellas, how you doing?" And he says, surprise, Jesse. They say, "Hey, how you doing? How's everything?"
Sure.
And so there's an intergenerational kind of stuff. So I just love the idea that if we can make this work, and I think we will, and we'll have the community helping us out. We've got all the research connections. Now let's see how all this works. And I was wondering over the summer, maybe we got to I got to take you down to the Queen of Diverse Books, Possible Futures in New Haven.
Oh, no, know her well. She's a good friend.
Okay. So Lauren, over there, we should think about maybe some summer reads, maybe some just picture books.
Absolutely,
and stuff. And I saw when I was at De Loretto for Reads Across America, and they were doing retelling, prompts. And I thought, we can certainly do that with any picture book. a 15-minute read. We go through the retelling, and we could probably help some of those kids do that. And we can make them all culturally relevant because it also helps us to
Right.
know that
Yeah, I like the idea of having events at the library throughout the summer, right? Bringing all of them together to talk about different
yeah,
books, right?
we want
Do book
to do that.
circles and all that
Yes,
kind of thing, because the library in New Britain is absolutely
right.
spectacular. The children's library is spectacular. I want to see it fill up with kids and with families, and I think hopefully, we'll get more folks to utilize that space.
Do
Yeah.
that, and we'll have to reach out to Daisy Hill, Torres Hill at Central because there's got to be some ways we can make some connections there.
Right. I think the mentors, people like that, students on campus would be great
Right.
mentors, right?
They
So
would love
tapping
that.
into that, absolutely. Yeah.
They
Again,
have-
I think children again need to see a lot of adults who believe in them and are interested in their well-being. I wanted to say this, and this is more for families. This isn't a tutoring, mentoring program, and maybe I come up with a different name than tutoring, mentoring, because this isn't for struggling students, right? This is, yes,
Oh,
if you need additional help, but this is for kids who may be doing well, but also need that, they need to have other relationships with adults to envision a future for themselves, right? I think when I was young, I was not in a family there was no one who was in technology, right? That no one did that kind of work. I think I was a nerd because at school I liked to tinker with technology, and I was a computer geek, right? And then there was an opportunity for mentoring, and I met people at Hewlett Packard on Long Island. And then I envisioned a future for myself. I wanted to go to college to become a computer engineer. Now that went away after a while, but because of it, I got a full ride to college, right? Because there were adults that presented themselves that not only were like me, that were interested in the same things that I was, but they showed me how I could have a career path, right? That my family wasn't doing for me. My family was doing plenty for me in the way of loving me up and making sure I was safe. But this thing that I had a passion for, I needed to meet some people who actually made a career out of it, right? And that was very inspiring, and part of why I dug in and did well in high school and college was because of this, right? I think it's so important for students to see people in their lives being successful in a multitude of ways, right? So that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that through this mentoring program, kids start seeing all sorts of other people. It's like, I could be like that. I could do that. I could be like that, right? Yeah.
That's the whole idea.
Yeah.
Giving them a mentor, a buddy, a friend, an advocate,
Sure.
be over there to help them with their work. But also, I was thinking when you had said you had mentioned something about also the smart kids. My niece Alexis Diaz used to would do anything with reading, anything with reading. So a lot of the stuff at school with reading is about struggling readers, and the teachers say she doesn't struggle. She reads
Right.
books that the other kids can't even read.
Right.
She's reading 450-page books and stuff. She's
Right.
reading the Count of Monte Cristo. We're still doing the Phantom Tollbooth over here. We can't get her to do this, over there. But that idea that we really, this is about a celebration of community and literacy
Right.
and the library. And I love the
Right.
other library connection is the best predictor of test score growth. Our friend Stephen Krashen, who does all the second language acquisition research, has always said the best predictor outside of income is the library. The more libraries you have, because I see this kind of project as being something that has all these other benefits that sort of like, a flower that opens up, it has all these other petals that do stuff, or an onion in that sense. But we will have kids going to the library if they go twice a week. I mean, they're going to the place that Dr. Stephen Krashen says will improve their test scores the more they do this over there. So we do that. And a lot of your elementary schools also have libraries connected to them.
Sure.
I've been in them
Yeah, Jefferson in particular is our
Yes.
elementary that has a
Yeah.
lovely, great library. Yeah. And folks in the library have been really supportive, right? They have a program that they do already, and it's, I believe it's teens, and they've been very successful. And they love the fact that we were interested in using Tuesdays and Thursdays. They don't have any programming for mentoring, and they said this will expand what we're doing, and it would also bring a different group of mentors from the faith-based community into the library. So they loved that as well. Yeah, they've been wonderful.
And we may find we're open to, just in case people are listening. Guess what, college kids? We'd like you to be mentors as also
Oh, yes.
over there. My friends at the NAACP. Hey, come on, what better person than to mentor young children than an organization that's had over 100 years of civil rights activism? Yes, so keep that in mind. We'll find that just that base grows over there. So
I want to go back to something you said,
Sure.
because I'm a district central office district employee, right? So I've been doing this for about 13 years, and the scores on the state tests, while they're not the most important thing, they do matter, right? And one of the things that I always look for is it's not so much where they are, right? Like what percent of kids. It's always about growth, right? And I like to look at it as an indicator of growth. And in New Britain, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but in the K-5 over the last 4 years, they have seen great growth. We have seen that even on the state test, right? Which is the last thing that happens, because you have to change practice and you have to engage kids and make sure they're reading and writing authentically every day to really move that dial. But they have been doing that, right? This staff said 4 years ago when Dr. Gasper came, they said, okay, we're at the bottom. We're going to change that. And they started to really make huge changes in the elementary schools. And I just want to applaud staff at that level. They have done a remarkable job. And as a result, kids are reading and writing more. They're discussing texts, and reading has really turned around a whole lot. Those are the same teachers that teach math, though. And in math, it's even been more remarkable. On the state test, they've gone up 12 points, right, over the last 4 years, okay? I say that because while it is not the most important thing, it is also an indicator that what you have here is staff and community coming together to recognize we can do better, and we will, right? And so I really appreciate the fact that we're here now building this more community connections to help students, right? And that teachers and staffs and principals are also doing that same thing in each of their buildings, right? They also know they can't do it alone. It has to be with bringing in parents. It has to be with working with mentors. And they're gonna. I mean, I love the fact that already we only opened this on Monday. We already have 25 families, right? So we know that the schools, teachers, and principals are saying, look, here's another program that can help you. It's beyond the school day, but we want to be a part of partnering with the community. Yeah.
So we're moving in a positive direction. We've
Yeah.
got families signing up. We're gathering mentors. We're still continuing. The beauty of this project is it began because you did something that I would say sometimes leaders don't get. You listened. So
Yeah.
you were engaged in the community. You were going to clergy. You were going to the community. You were when they instituted a new report card. You said we need to go talk to them because they're going to be confused. Parents are used to the old report card, the new report card. What does it mean? What goes on? And you went there and you listened. And when you told them, and I've been at your meetings, you lay out the truth with test scores. And then sometimes it's hard to sit there. And although we may have went up 12 points, we're still struggling near the bottom.
Right. Exactly.
Point.
Exactly.
What happens is you listened.
We're not sitting on our hands, right? And I think the community piece, it's worth more of our attention, right? We're interested in doing that. Right now, it's the faith-based communities, but we are happy to work with anyone, right? The latest was Lead Connecticut came to us and said, what can we do? How can we get involved? And they offered their space for this, but there's other projects that we're going to be doing with them. They are sponsoring 10 students and a teacher to go to Dismantling Systemic Racism, the conference in May by CIRC. That was a lovely partnership. We want to do more of that, right? So the teacher that teaches Black and Latino studies is going to take those students, right? So we're finding more and more, the more we reach out and say, look, the schools can't do it alone. We got to do this together. It's been nice, again, that the overall scores are going up, but this is going to take many more partnerships with the community. I'm going to give you another example. It's not the 3 through 8, but we know that community partnership works, and it's done really well in our high school. We have a high school that's 2,700 kids. Okay, and we also have something that are called academies. We have 4 academies that were built over the last, I want to say, 12 years. The high school and partners in industry, right? They came together. This is a lot of money from the community to build these academies, like the Medical Academy, which is for manufacturing. A lot of industrial renovations in the high school to make sure that they have the right equipment so that students are getting prepared to go into the trades, right in high school, to also get college credit, because some of the courses that they take are as sophisticated as, architecture and other things that are that are college credit, right? So that partnership has been so remarkable that I urge everyone to watch the last board meeting, because what we had was 4 alumni come back and say that, just right out say, I would not be where I am if it wasn't for New Britain High School's program in health, in finance, in manufacturing, in education, right? We had a doctor from UConn come back and say, I remember taking my courses at in New Britain High School, and it made me who I am, right? We had a student at Harvard Business School come back and say, I'm an entrepreneur because of what I learned at New Britain High School. Those academies don't happen unless the high school and industry, local businesses came in and said, we wanted to expand the opportunities for students in New Britain, and they did it in a way that I haven't seen in any other. I just want to say, no other district has that level of partnership. So we're really building on something that was that's here, and we're going to expand it, because we know, again, that when the kids recognize that they are successful people in our community, they want to be like that, right? Yeah.
And the benefit is we're bringing those people in. And
Yes.
bringing those
Yes.
partnerships in, connect
Absolutely.
them in the school. And I like the idea of it happening in the community, because when you leave the school and you're meeting with people who are helping you, it's a little different in that sense. But the connection to me is stronger. In school, I feel like I have to do what I'm doing. I was one of those,
Sure.
whatever teacher said I would be doing. But after school, and there were community projects that happened like that, and summer projects in particular, but I remember them all, and I loved them all, and I loved meeting different people, and especially people that just said a simple, I care about you. It's sort of like civil rights movement. You look at Jesse Jackson just passed away. You get that idea that I am a man emerged. So with students, this has the potential of people seeing them and them saying, I am a human being. I'm smart, I'm bright, I have dreams, and all of that stuff. So I love all of these things. I think this is going to be a powerful project that goes off. Can you tell now we've got ideas that things to celebrate. But tell us a little bit about, don't you have a literacy background? Because I don't have many. I don't know of any superintendents that have certification in literacy. I didn't know if you had that.
Oh, yes. I'm a certified reading teacher. I served as a reading teacher, and I came up through the districts in curriculum, right? Curriculum instruction, teaching and learning I worked for CERC for 6 years and was a trainer, my professional, a staff developer in the area of literacy and race, of all things, right? So
Wow.
courageous conversations on race is something that I facilitated throughout the state. And so racial equity, right? At the heart of that is equity. And it is I do that with my leadership pieces is all about equity, and then also Latino critical theory, right? Since you like to throw around the research, that was my dissertation, right? Was about how Latinos have entered leadership and moved on through their careers, and are eligible to become superintendents. And what's the path to superintendent here in Connecticut for Latinos? It was of interest to me because while we have 33% of students in Connecticut are Latino, we have less than 3% of superintendents. And so that's a pipeline that is a little self-serving, but also I think it's really important. I want to know who are the students in high school who want to be teachers, right? Who are the students in our colleges that are thinking about leadership, that are thinking about, I can do that. I'm a great leader, and I would love to serve my community, right? And we actually in our high school, we have a program that's been very successful called Ed Rising. There's a teacher there, Eileen Marcus, who she's a child magnet. Like she fills her courses, and the kids want to be in there. They want to take those education courses with her. And then I have interviewed kids in the program. Some of them, yes, want to be educators. They want to be just like her. And some of them have said, I'm not sure if it's going to be education, but I know in this class, I have a voice, I learn, and she pushes me all the time, right? So the Ed Rising is giving us, it's sort of our pipeline is sort of grow your own. We have a lot of kids that are going to go into education, hopefully when they go down to CCSU. But then there's all the kids who just know what it feels like to be in a course where they can sort of reach for the stars because teacher is pushing them and believes in them all the way. Yeah.
We love that concept, and
Yeah.
we look at this idea that I did my dissertation on the Tohono Reservation. That's the second largest native reservation in America. It's about the size of Connecticut. And so at Barbecue High School, we had kids. I was the reading teacher. So we made a little deal. I actually asked the students, like you, that listening piece, I asked them, what do you think about reading? They said, well, that's boring. What do you think about math? Oh, that's stupid. They went on, gave me these things. And even one of them was brave enough to have a curse like, hey, F you, white buffalo, leave us alone. We've heard this before. And then I said, what would you like to learn? And this is something I think the power of culturally relevant pedagogy had. They said, we'd like to learn about our culture. We'd like to learn about our language. Language is an endangered part of culture in Native communities, and our heritage and all that stuff. And then I made a suggestion to our administrator, why don't I shift the curriculum? You just want them to read, right? Because I did this reading course. It was a developmental reading course. Said all they need to do is read and comprehend, answer questions, do all this stuff, learn how to, text structure. And I said, well, why don't we shift the curriculum and fill it full of Native authors? That changed the whole thing.
Right.
And in my dissertation, I also documented not just they all did well in school and they won all kinds of awards, but the other pieces were the length of writing and how spelling improved, how grammar improved, all of that stuff, and the length of reading. And the things that students started saying were like, we read to protect ourselves from stereotypes. We write to tell our stories. The last guest was an author, a Mexican author last time. And she was on the show. We did a show, who are the migrants in your neighborhood? Because she said, Jesse, they know who I am. I'm an author, I'm a writer, I'm a positive community member, I own my own home, I work, I do all of this stuff, and we did that. and it was a wonderful, wonderful show on that kind. But the idea that we're pushing back nationally on diversity and equity, these are the things that students want to talk about.
Yes,
Want to talk
I
about
agree.
race. They want to talk about.
That's right.
You know, it's the old stuff. As an old English teacher, I'd say anytime I could bring sex, drugs, and rock and roll into that classroom, kids wanted to read. They wanted to discuss. They wanted that. But this is something more positive. Anytime I can, kids want to talk about race. This is a real issue in their lives. They want to talk about equity, fairness.
That's right.
When I'm meeting with young college students, they're not the college students that when I was in school. They're like, healthcare. Yeah, that's a natural. Everyone needs that. Racism. That's pretty stupid. Bigotry. They're a different group, and we have a potential to grow. So I love that concept that we're doing that with Ed Risen, and I'm sure they'll like to hear that at friends.
So yes, I am a certified reading teacher who came up through the ranks to be deputy superintendent. But I always tell this story too. As a student, I was a whiz at math. It was math and all those analytical things, right? I was a struggling reader, right? I was a struggling reader. And when I became a teacher, I said, I better go find out how to do this, right? I want to make sure that I understand how to help students to learn to read. It wasn't that I was not a reader anymore, I was still struggling, but I wanted to go deeper in that area because I knew I had struggled as a child. And I want to tell you that I didn't read a whole book until 8th grade. And it wasn't until I found a teacher that said, you're smart. You talk about things. You are able to express a whole lot, but you have this lack of confidence. And he said, we're going to read Anne Frank, and you're going to be Anne. We're going to read the play out loud. So get ready, because the next couple of weeks you'll be reading out loud to your class. And I think he picked it because he knew, even though maybe a Latino study thing would have been great, he knew I was really interested in this idea of social justice, right? And he knew that I couldn't turn away, and I would step up and I would practice at home. And by the time I got to class, that fluency piece really helped. I became a better reader and finished a book in 8th grade because he said, you can do it. And I'm going to put you on this stage where you're going to have to do it. And it helped a whole lot, right? Yeah, so I believe that. I believe that middle schoolers in particular, they want to read things that are about controversies. They want to read things that are relevant. They want to read about things that are impacting their lives. And we should not shy away from that. We should give them choice. And actually, more than that, we should look at our curriculum. And if it's not in there, we should be rewriting curriculum.
We should be rewriting it, and we should be demanding more.
Yes, demanding more. Turn it up, not down when it comes to issues.
The stamina.
That's right.
When they enter the university, I'm one of the first people that tell my colleagues to say, you're given a chapter a night. So you're the anthropology person, the history person, the sociology person, all the classes my students, when they're near the college, think these sound really cool and interesting. And I'm like, the anthropology people are reading case studies. They're very tense. And they got books with a printer size 7 fonts. And I'm like, my God, my kids are going to struggle. But that idea of the stamina.
Yeah.
So many of our kids are not reading enough. They're not building stamina, just like exercise. So let's put more reading on them, more novels.
And let's not forget,
let's motivate them.
Let's not forget that for families who are literate in other languages, I want them reading in Spanish. I want them reading Arabic. I want them reading their native language as well. It should not just be English only. Okay, we know that students who speak multiple languages, their brain synapses make them smarter, right? And so we need to make sure that we're supporting that. And also in the schools, we're growing our De Loreto dual language program. Next year, we go up to 5th grade, and so happy that program has been rebuilt. And we're looking for more opportunities to do more things with language, because we know that the kids need that, right? And they can excel in so many ways in that area. Yeah.
And that is that piece that when we're talking about stamina, and we're also, America has to come to grips with the idea that when I read Hispanic author, that's not just for Hispanic kids. If I read, so I love Isabel Allende's writing. So I
Yeah,
remember hiding under my coat in Chicago O'Hara
so
Airport
good.
because I'm reading House of Spirits and the
Oh,
Discover the
yeah,
Mass
there you
Graves.
go.
And I'm just crying
Yeah,
away. And I'm saying, I
right,
can't let these people see me. They'll start coming over and I can't stop the
right,
page.
right.
But what I'm saying is reading diverse books also builds respects
Hmm.
for diverse people. So it's not only Hispanic kids that need Latin authors,
Exactly.
or our Moroccan children in New Britain who need to read a Moroccan author. It's just, and when they go to college, they're going to do that. College is all about that. You're going to
Right,
learn that no one owns academia. No
right.
one owns it over there, and you're going to read all kinds of diverse authors and stuff. But it has
Hmm.
the promotion. So Rudine Sims says, with books, the power of literature is that they give us mirrors, and we all need our mirrors. They give us these sliding windows that we can look into
Mm.
another society. So I could see a positive portrayal
Hmm.
of a Latino, activist
Exactly.
or writer, and I could do the same. And then she always says, then the best ones are the ones that you can walk in those shoes of that person.
Right.
So I always say
Yes.
that was Ellie Weisel for me. Ellie Weisel
Oh,
wrote Night, and I'm like, oh my God, I could feel every moment of that. And I had a great teacher who reminds us, well, what if it was you? What if you had to go out with your parents and grandparents and
right.
march into,
Hmm.
a train to
Hmm.
be taken to
Right,
a camp and all that stuff? But I remember all of those things. So
right.
you start feeling positive about others. If we read more about each other, if we,
Exactly.
if America read America, we would have a nation full of readers who can't get enough. But
Right.
I love that concept. And so you do have the reading background. You do listen. I know that over there. You're not shy. If Lewis Mall was here, my old professor, he would say, "What? She's going into the community. She's the deputy superintendent, and she wants to go meet with clergy people. What? Why is she doing that?" He'd say, "No, she's doing exactly what she's supposed to be doing. Meet with the community. She's meeting with community agencies and doing all that and working together on pots of stuff." So I love that stuff because that is the strength to me. So I've been interviewing, particularly a lot of Latina women over the
Hmm.
past year on the radio, and listening is probably their number one strength. I mean, if you're in a room with well, I assume when I'm in a room full of men, we just can't shut up. We just keep talking. Just over there. Oh yeah, I got the solution. I got that. I know. Did you ever hear? And we overburden. But the women in the room, and particularly uh, Hispanic leaders listen
Mm.
well. It's not just the women. They're used to being in the room. Okay, let me wait till things quiet down a little bit. Now let me say something, but let me sort of synthesize everything else that everyone else said, an idea. So that's another strength over there. And
Thank
while
you.
everybody is running away
I'll
from
take it.
diversity, I'm going to say you need more Latina superintendents and deputy superintendents and leaders in the community and stuff. And then there is an organization in Connecticut for principals and superintendents
Yeah, it's
and
called the Connecticut Association for Latino Administrators and Superintendents, and it's called CALAS. They will be having their annual gala in May, and it's a great organization. I'm going to say the wrong number of years, but maybe the last 10 years, and it's so inspiring because when we're together, Latinos love to celebrate each other, right? And so it's been an incredible place to network with people. And I couldn't have written my dissertation. I interviewed 9 former present and former superintendents, and Calas helped me a great deal to make those connections. And they just inspire me because I know that all of us, and I want to include myself in this, we're responsible for looking to the next generation and pulling people up, right? And saying, this too is for you, right? And being really vocal about how it helps and impacts Latino students, but other students, right? Students of all races need to see Latinos in leadership, right? That makes for a better society. So yeah, I
they
um
do. They
I
do.
love Calas. Yeah.
And Callas gives scholarships out there.
Yes.
And so they do lots of good work, and I've known lots of members and friends over there. And I'll be in May. I'll be there with Daisy Torres Hill and others. Central will have a table at that event, so I'll come over and see the New Britain people. I imagine maybe Superintendent Gasper's there. I hear that he's bilingual and his Spanish is much better than mine.
He
Yeah, but he's
is.
good.
Oh, he puts me to shame.
You
Yes.
can understand
yes.
him. You can't understand me. So my abuela says, I say, oh, yo quiero café con leche. So, what's that? What's that, Jesse? Speak English. You're embarrassing me. It's too hard to understand you. But Tony does a good job.
So I will say this. I know you're Latino because te encanta platicar, right? So you love to sit down and chat, and that's got to come from your Latino background.
That's it. That's the show. So we're coming down to our last really 3 or 4 minutes of the show. And so I'd like to thank you for being a guest. I'd like to thank the audience for listening. And I want to remind people that this is 103.5 FM. And guess what? He'll come back again. We got to give you an update on the project.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Abrazos.
Exactly clear. There's a man with a gun.
Hasta luego.
Adios.
Telling me I got to beware. I think it's time we stop. Children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.